You ever think about like a tiny little acorn? I mean, it's just this small thing, right?
Yeah.
But inside, it's got the whole blueprint for this massive oak tree.
Yeah.
One that could live for hundreds of years, give shade to I don't know how many creatures, and drop a zillion more acorns.
Yeah.
That's got to be like the most amazing upward trajectory ever. And you know what? That same drive, that same way more than you see at first glance potential, it's totally built into us humans too.
You're so right. That principle is constantly at work, isn't it? This movement from potential to actually being, from something simple to something more and more refined. We see it all over the place. I think it's really interesting when we think about what it means for our own lives, for all of us together, and where we might be headed.
Totally. And that is exactly where we're going in our deep dive today. We're going deep into the thoughts of P.R. Sarkar. It's this collection of spiritual and social ideas, and it is so invigorating. Imagine we're like those gold miners, panning for those little nuggets in these texts. They're packed with wisdom that speaks directly to that human need for progress, for a future that's just bursting with possibility.
What really grabs me about Sarkar's work is that even when he's talking about those huge, complicated problems that society is facing, there's this constant flow of optimism, this like rock-solid belief that we can actually evolve and create a world that's way more harmonious. It's a perspective that's both refreshing and energizing.
I am so with you on that. Our mission today is to unpack some of these central ideas. We'll dive into evolution towards perfection, and the supreme consciousness. Those are from his spiritual discourses. And then we'll see how those basic ideas flow outwards into his ideas about society. Specifically, we're looking at spirituality, the base of life, civilization in crisis, and your mission in life. It sounds like we're covering a lot, but you'll see how these seemingly different areas all connect. They paint a really inspiring picture.
It's like realizing that our inward journey, that personal search for growth and understanding, it's not separate from what we do in the world and our place in the bigger story of humanity. They're two sides of the same coin, always affecting each other in this awesome process of becoming.
All right, so let's get right into it with evolution towards perfection. Sarkar has this fascinating idea that life is like a constant climb, this movement from imperfection to perfection. And he starts at the very beginning with things that are inanimate, like a rock. Now, a rock just exists, It doesn't take action. It doesn't have feelings.
That's such a cool thing to think about, even in that state where it seems like nothing's happening. Maybe there's a hidden potential there, an unexpressed possibility, just waiting for the right circumstances to come along. It's like the very first whisper of that journey we're talking about.
And then he contrasts that with plants and trees. They're alive, they grow, they seek out what they need to live, and he even hints that they have a rudimentary awareness of pleasure and pain. That's when he says we're seeing the first real manifestation of consciousness, a kind of waking up. It's like the volume's been turned up just a bit.
For sure. The ability to react to things, to try to survive those, are huge jumps forward in how consciousness unfolds, going from pure possibility to this basic form of actively engaging with what's around.
And then, of course, we get to humans, who he describes as the highest being, the most perfect in structure. But here's where it gets really exciting. He makes it clear that this isn't the end of the line. For us, it's the beginning. We still have this incredible journey ahead of us toward physical, intellectual, and spiritual perfection. Talk about a future packed with possibilities.
That is a crucial point to get. Our current state, even though it's pretty remarkable, isn't the limit of what we can be. We're works in progress, and we're capable of growing and becoming more refined in so many different ways.
And he introduces these powerful concepts of dharma and adharma. Dharma, he says, is that natural movement toward perfection, towards the divine. Picture a river flowing toward the ocean, that's its dharma. Adharma, then, is the opposite. It's movement towards imperfection, which he equates with a kind of spiritual death. So going back to a more basic animalistic state that's not truly living. It's like swimming against the current of that natural upward flow.
That is a really strong way to look at it. Dharma as this inherent tendency we have to evolve, to reach for those higher states of being. And adharma, that's like trying to swim against the current, right? It leads to stagnation and eventually a kind of spiritual decay, I guess you could say.
He also talks about this grand sweep of evolution that happens from the subtle to the crude. Meaning the initial ideas, like the blueprints, come before they actually appear physically. And then he describes this beautiful reverse journey, the individual soul going back toward the absolute consciousness. And he uses that image of waves in the sea returning to the vastness of the ocean. We all share that same origin and that same ultimate destination.
The wave and ocean analogy just really hits home, doesn't it? It captures both our own unique temporary existence as individuals and that fundamental unity we have with the ultimate source. The journey back is all about consciously realizing that connection.
And then there's this almost mythical description of the dawn of man, this early human ancestor taking those first steps out onto the plains. He calls it the seed of humanity, carrying a hidden dream. It's like a tiny spark of something extraordinary being ignited. Wow, the potential that must have been in that first step.
It's such a powerful image, capturing that very beginning of our conscious journey as humans, that first flicker of self-awareness and the built-in desire for something more than just survival. It speaks to the incredible resilience and potential that's been inside us from the very start.
And get this, he suggests that the waves of thought from that very first human experience are still echoing in our unconscious minds today. We're all connected to that original spark, that initial unfolding of human consciousness. Isn't that an amazing thought? It's like we're carrying this deep shared history within us.
It highlights how interconnected the entire human story really is. Those early experiences, those breakthroughs in thought and awareness, they've left a lasting mark on our collective psyche, shaping us today in ways we might not even realize.
But he says those evolutionary forces haven't stopped working. They've just shifted to the psychic level now. They express themselves in how we strive for dignity every day, for recognition, for feeling like we have worth. It's not just about where our next meal is coming from anymore. It's about our inner lives and our place in the world.
Exactly. As our basic physical needs become more secure, at least for more people, that evolutionary drive pushes us toward developing our mental, emotional, and spiritual sides. That yearning for dignity and self-respect, it becomes a powerful force for growth.
All right, so from this incredible journey of individual evolution, we're moving into the supreme consciousness. Sarkar paints this picture of a universe that operates with perfect order, governed by rules that are just built in. And he uses these analogies, the solar system with the sun at its heart, the Earth-Moon system with Earth as the center, even the atom with its nucleus. It all comes back to a central point.
Those analogies are so useful for visualizing a unified structure throughout the cosmos. From the grand scale of planets and solar systems down to the tiny world of atoms, it suggests this fundamental principle of connection and a force that organizes everything.
And he introduces the idea of the supreme consciousness as that ultimate cosmological nucleus, the central point that everything revolves around, both living and non-living things. It happens either consciously, like for us humans and those on a spiritual path, or unconsciously, like for animals and beings that are less aware. It's like everything's in orbit around this central sun.
That distinction between moving consciously and unconsciously toward this central point is so key. It points out our unique ability as humans to actually become aware of this cosmic dance and to take part in it on purpose.
He explains that those who are moving unconsciously, they have a fixed or maybe even growing radius from this supreme center. While those consciously seeking spiritual growth, they are actively trying to shorten that radius. Their aim is that ultimate oneness, that liberation, at the closest possible point. Imagine it's like this cosmic dance where some are just drifting while others are intentionally moving closer to the main dancer.
The radius concept is brilliant for showing how connected or separate we are from the supreme consciousness. Spiritual practice then becomes this intentional act of pulling ourselves closer to that central point of awareness and unity.
And this is such a powerful idea, he says, that even with all our outward differences, the ultimate goal for every single entity is that supreme consciousness. This understanding should completely erase any feelings of shyness, hatred, or thinking we're better than others, because that supreme nucleus is the bigger I of everyone, the supreme progenitor of all. We're all fundamentally connected at the deepest level. It's a truly unifying vision.
It creates a profound sense of belonging and connection, reminding us that beneath our individual identities, there's a shared source and a shared destination. This understanding can be a powerful remedy for all the division and prejudice in the world, making way for greater empathy and compassion.
He uses this very relatable analogy of a cow tied to a peg with a rope to show how us humans, we move around this cosmic nucleus, often completely oblivious to the tether in the center. We think we're roaming free, but there's this underlying connection we don't see.
The cow analogy is so effective at capturing how we exist, often without really being aware. We move within the sphere of the supreme consciousness. Our actions and experiences are all tied to this central point, yet we may not always get that.
But then, when that deeper questioning starts to bubble up inside us, like, where am I really going? What's the point of all this? That's when we begin to notice the peg and feel that pull toward the center. That moment of realizing that's what he says marks the beginning of our spiritual aspiration. And that radius starts to get smaller. It's like we're finally starting to pull on that rope.
That inner yearning, that feeling of not being satisfied with just the surface level of things, that's the fuel for spiritual growth. It's that moment when we shift from just living to actively searching for meaning and connection.
And this supreme consciousness isn't some far-off ruler who doesn't care. He describes it as the supreme witnessing entity, this mind that encompasses absolutely everything. He uses this vivid example. Imagine a rhinoceros. The Supreme is instantly aware of that thought, of that image. Nothing is hidden from this ultimate awareness.
The idea of the Supreme Witness, it really underscores how all-encompassing divine consciousness is. We're always within its awareness. Every thought and action we have, they're all unfolding within this infinite field of perception.
On building on that, he says that the entire universe is basically a mental projection coming from this supreme consciousness. This makes each and every one of us, everything around us, his children. He redefined the concept of God as not just a governor, but the generator, operator, and destructor, that powerful acronym God. It's a dynamic, creative force that's always working.
This perspective really shifts how we see the divine, from a distant figure of authority to the very source of our being. It's the source from which everything comes into existence, is sustained, and ultimately goes back to. It's a much closer and more dynamic relationship.
And because absolutely everything comes from him, nothing can exist outside of him. He uses this really cool analogy of concentric circles. Your town is within your state is within your country, and so on, all the way up to the solar system, which is within him, to show that he doesn't need any external shelter. He is the ultimate container.
This paints a beautiful picture of how self-sufficient and all-encompassing the supreme consciousness is. It's the ultimate reality that underlies and holds all other levels of existence. It doesn't need anything outside of itself.
Then he uses these incredibly relatable, everyday analogies to explain how the supreme is actually present within each of us. Like oil, hidden inside an oil seed, which needs that effort of pressing to be extracted. Like butter that's already in the curd, revealed through the process of churning, and like an underground river flowing beneath the surface, just waiting to be found by removing the sands of mind. It's all already there within us, ready to be discovered.
These analogies are so practical and encouraging, giving us real guidance on how to connect with that divine spark inside. They emphasize that the potential is already there. It's that process of inner work and spiritual practice that allows us to see it.
But what gets in the way of this connection? He says it's our I-ness, our ego, that feeling of being a separate self. He points out that we don't need to go on big pilgrimages to find him. The real journey is inward. It's like trying to find a bracelet that's already on your wrist. You don't have to look very far.
The ego, that feeling of being separate and distinct, it acts like a veil, blocking our awareness of that deeper unity with the supreme consciousness that's right there inside us. The spiritual path is about tearing down that illusion of separation.
And we have to really work to wipe out this ego, he says, because it's the root of so many of our problems, our burdens, our confusion, our conflicts. He says even after we've surrendered everything else, that core sense of I still needs to be let go of to find true completeness. That's a challenging but ultimately liberating idea, isn't it?
The ego is this really stubborn obstacle, the last boundary that needs to dissolve on our journey toward completeness. Realizing how it keeps us suffering is the first step toward going beyond its limits.
He uses this great analogy of a constant heavenly shower of grace that's always there. But if we're holding up the umbrella of our ego, we're not going to get wet. We have to be open, receptive, and willing to let go of our defenses to feel that divine blessing.
God's grace is constantly flowing, but our ego acts like a shield, stopping us from fully experiencing its transformative power. Humility and a willingness to surrender, those are essential to receive this unlimited gift.
Then he talks about this profound experience of merging with the Supreme, where that small, limited sense of individual existence just dissolves. This doesn't lead to being wiped out, but to self-transcendence. And this is so important, he says, that by consistently focusing our deepest thoughts on the Supreme, we actually begin to take on those divine qualities. It's like spending a lot of time with someone you really admire. You start to pick up their best traits.
This concept of becoming like what we focus on is fundamental in a lot of spiritual traditions. It highlights how transformative sustained focus can be and the potential we have to realize our own inherent divinity by constantly remembering the Supreme.
He introduces this really interesting idea that we each have two I's, the small I, the individual one, like when you refer to yourself by your name, and the big universal I, the supreme consciousness, which is exactly the same in every single living being. It's like recognizing that we're all individual waves, but part of the same vast ocean.
Recognizing these two levels of self-awareness, it allows us to appreciate both our unique individuality and the underlying unity we have with all of creation. The universal I is the thread that connects us all.
He encourages us to really make a conscious effort to identify with this supreme I so we can truly grasp that everything is connected. Using that image of the Pacific Ocean, we're all just little drops within that same immensity. And he talks about this beautiful concept of mutual meditation, this two-way flow of awareness and love between the individual and the supreme.
This reciprocal connection, this back and forth resonance between our individual consciousness and the supreme consciousness is the very heart of spiritual communion. It's this ongoing exchange of energy and awareness, a deepening of our relationship with the divine.
Ultimately, he says that even the distinction between I and he fades away in this state of non-attributional consciousness, which is like the peak of yoga. It's a state that's even beyond feeling oneness. It's pure existence.
Yeah.
But he reassures us that there's always divine help and guidance available along this journey.
This ultimate realization of non-duality, it's like the culmination of spiritual practice, a state of such deep unity that it transcends the limitations of our personal identity. And the promise of ongoing divine help, that's incredibly comforting and encouraging to everyone striving for this highest state.
To truly find peace, he explains, we need to transform our limited individual point of view into an infinite one. Spiritual practice is all about gradually expanding our psychic radius, the scope of our awareness, and what we identify with, until it fully merges with the Supreme. That's what salvation is. That's true liberation.
True and lasting peace. It's not just the absence of conflict outside of us, it's the realization of our own infinite nature. It's the merging of our individual consciousness with the unlimited supreme consciousness.
He points out these 4 desires that are unique to the human mind, the things that really set us apart. The desire to expand our horizons, to connect deeply with the cosmic whole, to do something truly meaningful in the world, and to experience that ultimate lasting peace. And he says that yoga is a complete path to fulfilling all these profound human aspirations. What an optimistic view of our potential.
These 4 fundamental desires, they beautifully sum up those core yearnings of the human spirit. Yoga, in its most holistic form, gives us a complete framework to address these desires, physically, mentally, and spiritually, leading to a truly fulfilling life.
I just love this comforting analogy he uses. It's about a parent gently guiding a toddler who's taking their first steps. We put in the tiniest bit of effort, that initial lean forward, and God's right there to pick us up, to support us. It's about taking that first step of trust and intention.
It's a beautiful illustration of that unconditional love and grace of the divine. Even our smallest acts of faith, they're met with immense support and help, encouraging us to keep going on our journey.
He describes human life as this small bubble in the ocean of consciousness and encourages us to not be afraid of those waves of life, but to dive deep into the supreme consciousness to experience the sweet beauty of the divine play. He says those truly moving toward the Supreme, they align themselves with this cosmic wave and that intense joy and devotion. It might even look crazy to people who don't understand. It's about riding that wave of bliss.
That imagery so perfectly captures the fleeting nature of our individual existence within the vastness of cosmic consciousness. Surrendering to the divine flow, that leads to an experience of deep joy and connection, a participation in that divine play.
He warns us not to get caught up in seeking occult powers through meditation, saying true spiritual seekers, they long only for the Supreme itself, not for any of his powers or abilities. It's like that image of a child who pushes aside all the toys, just wanting to be held in their mother's arms. That ultimate connection, that's the only true desire.
Trying to gain supernatural abilities, it can become a real distraction on the spiritual path. The child analogy perfectly shows the single-minded devotion of a genuine seeker. Their only desire is union with the divine.
Then he introduces this powerful concept of cosmic ideation, or Madhu Vidya. It's a way to achieve liberation, even while living an active life in the world. It's all about filling all our actions with cosmic feelings. So something as basic as feeding a child becomes an act of serving the Supreme's manifestation. He says this practice keeps us detached from the binding effects of our actions and fills us with cosmic bliss. It's about seeing the divine in every moment.
Cosmic ideation provides a practical and transformative way to bring spirituality into our everyday lives. By consciously seeing the divine in everything we do and every interaction we have, we go beyond the limits of ego and experience a constant flow of bliss.
And here's an incredibly encouraging message for you, our listener. He says spiritual practice and ultimate success are already within our grasp. The result is already secured. God treats everyone who comes to him equally, regardless of what they've done in the past, and assures eventual liberation for everyone. That's a message full of hope and empowerment.
This message of universal accessibility and divine impartiality, it's a huge source of encouragement for spiritual seekers everywhere. It reinforces the idea that everyone has the potential for liberation and that the grace of the divine is unwavering.
He describes the Cosmic Father as the supreme subjectivity, the ultimate seer, and us as the object, the one being seen. He guides our meditation with this simple but profound reminder, I am the object and he is seeing me. And the core prayer, O Supreme Father, guide my intellect unto the path of bliss. It's about surrendering our limited understanding to his infinite wisdom and love.
This change in perspective during meditation, consciously putting ourselves in the position of the object being observed by divine awareness, it cultivates humility and opens us up to receive divine guidance. The core prayer perfectly captures our deepest longing for truth and bliss.
He uses this really tender image of a 3-month-old baby, totally dependent on its mother, to illustrate how the Supreme Guardian knows our needs, even before we say them. We don't need to be constantly worried or striving. There's a deeper care looking after us.
This analogy evokes such a deep sense of trust and dependence on the divine, assuring us that our well-being is known and cared for by the Supreme Consciousness.
And finally, he presents spiritual practice itself, or sadhana, as a great bow. Our minds sharpened and focused through meditation as the arrow, and the Supreme Soul as the ultimate target to be pierced with unwavering devotion. It's this active, intentional aiming of our whole being.
This powerful imagery emphasizes the focused effort and unwavering dedication required in spiritual practice to reach the ultimate goal of merging with the Supreme Soul. It's a call to purposeful action on our spiritual journey.
Now let's shift focus a bit within these spiritual discourses and look at the theme of mental balance. He puts people into 3 categories based on how well their thoughts, words, and actions align. You've got the A-class individuals, where all 3 are in harmony, the B-class, where thoughts and words might be different, but their words and actions match up, and the C-class, where there's a disconnect between all 3. And the clear encouragement is to always work toward that A-class integrity. Just imagine the inner peace that comes with that alignment.
This categorization is really valuable for self-reflection, encouraging us to cultivate inner coherence. Working toward that A-class alignment is a powerful step toward greater personal integrity and peace of mind.
He also offers this great perspective on the universe, like it's the Supreme Father playing a cosmic game with his children. Happiness and sorrow, those are just roles in this great play. The key, he says, is to remember that we're playing a part and not get overwhelmed by the temporary emotions that come up. It's about finding this joyful detachment amidst all the drama of life.
Understanding life as this divine play allows us to approach both joy and suffering with a broader perspective. Recognizing how temporary these experiences are helps us navigate them with more calmness and less attachment.
Moving on to the concept of the universal family, he defines the original creation, the entire cosmos, as including everything from the bright sun to the smallest ant, all belonging to this one vast, interconnected family. Talk about an expansive and inclusive vision.
This idea of a universal family really highlights that deep and intrinsic interconnectedness between all beings and all of creation. It dissolves those artificial boundaries we often create and emphasizes our shared kinship.
And this is a mind-blowing thought. He says that the role of the Milky Way galaxy and the role of a single ant are equally important in maintaining the delicate balance of the universe. Nothing is extra, nothing is without meaning. He even uses this hypothetical example of a tiny movement by an ant potentially causing an earthquake to show how interconnected everything really is. Makes you rethink your place in the cosmos, doesn't it?
This underscores how exquisitely interdependent the cosmos really is, where every single element, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, plays a crucial role in the overall harmony and balance. It really emphasizes the deep value of every part of creation.
He then goes on to talk about the constant cycle of creation and dissolution happening in the universe, reminding us that every being is part of his creation. So, no one is truly unimportant, not even those we might judge, like a drunkard or a fallen man. He stresses that hatred is never the answer because we're all expressions of that same universal consciousness. It's a call for radical acceptance.
Recognizing that everyone is part of the divine creation cultivates deep compassion and understanding. It challenges that tendency we have to judge and exclude others, reminding us of the inherent dignity and worth of every individual.
He reiterates God's unwavering, equal care for all beings, from a mammoth to an ant. The vastness of the cosmos doesn't require any more effort from him than creating a tiny insect. There's this constant, loving energy flowing from the divine behind everything. It's such a comforting thought that we're all cherished and sustained equally.
This emphasizes the impartial and limitless love of the divine, extending to all creation equally. Regardless of size, power, or perceived importance, we all benefit from this universal care.
So there's absolutely no reason to feel helpless or hopeless because, as he powerfully states, the Supreme Father is always with you. That's a constant source of strength and reassurance, isn't it?
It gives us this profound sense of constant support and connection to a higher power. It chases away those feelings of isolation and despair, reminding us that we're never truly alone.
He beautifully describes God's sweetest play as being hidden within everyone, creating this fun dynamic of hide and seek that brings joy to both the creator and creation. It adds this element of closeness and playfulness to how we see the divine.
This imagery makes our relationship with the divine feel joyful and intimate. It suggests a playful interaction between the creator and creation, this constant unfolding of discovery and connection.
He strongly asserts that fundamentally everything is one, beyond any differences we might see based on gender, age, social status, or anything else. We're all actors on the stage of the universe's drama, playing different roles but sharing a unified essence and purpose. It's like a grand theatrical production with a single, overarching theme.
This really reinforces the underlying unity of all beings. Despite how diverse we seem in our forms and the roles we play in the cosmic drama, it highlights our shared essence and the common goal we're all moving towards.
And because God is omnipresent, meaning he's everywhere at once, there's nothing we can hide from him. He urges us to let go of hatred towards anyone and overcome our fear of nature. He even talks about finding sweet music within sounds that seem scary. It's about training ourselves to perceive the divine in every single aspect of existence.
This encourages us to cultivate a sense of reverence and love toward all of creation, seeing the presence of the divine even in things that might initially seem negative or frightening.
The ultimate goal, he says, is to strive to experience this universal form of God, unity in all, within this very lifetime, through dedicated and intense meditation. It's not just about understanding intellectually, it's a call for direct personal realization. What an inspiring goal to work towards.
This emphasizes the very real possibility of directly experiencing our inherent unity with the divine and all of creation, not in some distant future, but within this lifetime. It's a call to actively explore our inner world.
And he offers this incredibly comforting and powerful thought. You are never alone or helpless. The force that guides the stars guides you too. It really puts our individual struggles into perspective when you consider that immense power at play in the universe, right?
This is such a profound affirmation of our connection to those cosmic forces, reminding us that we're part of something bigger, a divinely orchestrated process, and we always have the support of that universal intelligence.
He explains that how God appears to us is directly related to our feelings towards him. The more subtle our feelings, the closer he seems, and the more crude our feelings, the farther away. It's not about physical distance, but the state of our inner being.
This highlights the subjective nature of our experience with the divine. Our inner state, our emotions, our intentions, they all play a huge role in how we perceive God's presence.
He says that trying to find him externally, like in far-off places or rituals alone, will be pointless until we realize he's always been right there, deep within our own hearts. It's an inward journey of rediscovery.
True spiritual searching ultimately leads us inward, to the profound realization that the divine essence is already within us.
The Supreme Consciousness is always aware of what we do, what we think, even those unspoken motivations and priorities. So like he says, there's really no use in trying to hide anything. It encourages us to be radically honest with ourselves.
This highlights the complete transparency of our inner lives to the divine, encouraging us to cultivate authenticity and self-awareness in everything we think and do.
He directly addresses any feelings of defeat or inadequacy, reminding us that our ultimate Father is the most powerful entity in the entire universe, and assures us of a bright, glorious, luminous, and radiant future. That's a powerful antidote to any negativity or doubt we might be carrying.
This affirmation instills deep hope and resilience, reminding us of our divine heritage and the boundless potential we have. It encourages us to embrace the future with confidence and optimism.
And then he leaves us with this incredibly personal and moving statement. I do not belong to heaven. What I am to express this truth in a single sentence. I am yours. And then this powerful reassurance, no power in heaven and earth can separate me from my children. It's just this overwhelming expression of connection and unconditional love.
These profound statements convey an unbreakable and deeply personal bond between the divine and humanity. It's a message of unconditional love, unwavering support, and an eternal connection that goes beyond all limits.
Okay, so let's switch gears and explore how this profound spiritual understanding actually forms the foundation for building a better world. We're going into the social discourses, starting with spirituality at the base of life. The Sarkar envisions the creation of a truly great universe, guided by the principle that all humans are children, the offspring of that single supreme progenitor. It all comes down to recognizing that core connection that unites us all.
This establishes a deep sense of universal kinship, a global brotherhood and sisterhood rooted in our shared divine ancestry. It lays the groundwork for a truly unified and harmonious global society.
He really emphasizes the absolute necessity of living together in unity. We need to transcend all those superficial and often destructive differences, like race, literacy, economic status, or any other arbitrary division. And this applies to both how we interact outwardly and our inner psychic connections. It's about building harmony from the inside out.
True and lasting unity requires more than just living near each other. It needs a deep sense of psychological connection, mutual understanding, and a shared vision for the future.
And that shared ultimate goal, the merging of our individual consciousness with the supreme consciousness that further strengthens this essential unity. Because we all come from that source, we exist within it, and eventually we'll all return to it. It's like all the rivers in the world ultimately flowing into the same vast ocean. That shared destiny is what unites us.
Having this shared spiritual destiny gives us this unbelievably strong unifying force. It goes beyond the temporary differences of our earthly lives and focuses our attention on what we ultimately have in common.
He says that unity isn't just a nice outcome, it's the natural state for humans. Division, on the other hand, is an unnatural deviation, something that ultimately won't be tolerated by cosmic energy itself. He says conflict between people just leads to destruction, which makes unity absolutely necessary for lasting peace and genuine happiness under one inclusive ideology that can't be divided. It's a fundamental law of the universe.
This highlights the inherent harmony of the universe and how self-destructive division is. It emphasizes the urgent need for a unifying philosophical framework that aligns with the natural order.
He points out how strong those divisive tendencies are in the world right now, and he stresses the crucial role that spirituality has to play in nurturing that natural human affinity and ultimately bringing all of humanity together. It's the glue that can truly bind us together in a meaningful and lasting way.
Spirituality, because it addresses our deepest shared values, aspirations, and our connection to something bigger than ourselves, has this unique power to overcome those superficial divisions that plague human society.
He explains that a truly psychological approach to spirituality means using our rational minds, our intellect, to deeply appreciate that profound relationship we have with the divine. It's about understanding the limitless benevolence of the Supreme. It's not blind faith. It's about an informed and reasoned understanding.
This emphasizes how important it is to engage intellectually with spiritual principles. By using reason to deepen our understanding of the divine and our connection to it, we cultivate a stronger and more meaningful faith.
Spirituality, he says, leads us toward that one ultimate cosmic truth. It reveals where our soul comes from and our ultimate destination. It's that all-encompassing cosmic ideal that transcends all limitations of time, place, and individual identity. It's the single most powerful unifying force there is. It's like the ultimate compass, always pointing us to the same destination.
The cosmic ideal, being this transcendent and absolute principle, provides a universal point of reference that can unite humanity.